we're not going to deal with this. So depending on how they're going through this, there might be some other older pieces of software that Workday might need to interface with, and they better have scoped this out, because this is where cost overruns happen, when you haven't paid attention to the full business process and the tool sets that people use. And then when you go through the implementation, there are certain pieces of the workflow that don't work, because you need to pay attention to the microservices that may have been built over time. And then vendor coordination. Yeah, Workday and Cognizant are the only two vendors, but there will be subcontractors. There will be other systems that are included within this implementation that will need to be tightly integrated and coordinated. So a big part of project management, a big part of what we do is just that, right? When you're bringing in a large scale implementation, even if it's not best of breed, even if it's like just the one vendor, they tend to have different teams doing different work products or different modules. So it's really important that tight coordination happen between these different vendors. Any questions? Let me check in the chat. Things are quiet today. So how does this apply to us, and why are we talking about this? Number one, our expertise in government ERP modernization and digital transformation spans 20 years. I've been in this field for 20 years, and managing large-scale multi-agency ERP implementations is not for the faint of heart. And you need to be really, really good at program management at a very high level, and your team needs to be stellar at all levels, right? All the way from your business analysts, your training staff, to the project management office, and the program manager himself or herself needs to be top notch. This is not rocket science, but it could come close sometimes. Data governance and security is really important, especially in government ERP implementation. So keeping a close look on, especially now with AI, you need to pay close attention to what happens to your data, how it's handled, and who's responsible for and who's allowed to make changes to your data infrastructure. So doing all of that work upfront before you take on any project, forget 144 million pound project, even if it's sub 10 million, you have to make sure that your data governance and security is thought about upfront and often, and that you're making the vendors adhere to your standards. And then user training and adoption, right? Every implementation has a training phase, and the better implementers use every opportunity to meet with your end users and your leadership as a training opportunity. It might not be down to the click, but talking about the project, thinking about change management, it kind of goes hand in hand. So training should not be just 1 week of classroom. Training should be more than that. And with self-service options now available in most ERP implementations, users need to take advantage of that. And then we need to think about how G-Cloud-like frameworks in the US can help improve efficiency. We always talk about how do we shorten the timeline for procurement without losing sight of the fact that these are public dollars and you have to follow the process. So G-Cloud seems to be something that the UK governments, at least in this case, has done pretty well. So what can other local governments learn, or other governments learn from this massive undertaking? Of course, we'll have to keep a close eye on this, see how this goes. But here's a few thoughts that I have, right? Number one, cloud is the future. I think we've talked about this over the last 5 years quite a bit. There is a school of thought out there that says, come back on-premise, it's cheaper. But for all the flexibility that the cloud and SaaS offers, I think it's still going to be the future. I would like to see, though, that our clients get an option, and that cloud isn't just the default, that the vendors don't stop selling on-prem options, even though they might be more expensive. The client might have their own good reasons for wanting that. But if you ask me, cloud is the future. The debate between best of breed and all-in, we'll have to see how that goes. Because in some instances, standardization matters, but you'll have to see how these niche processes, how these niche workflows can be handled if they're not in the standard model. We already talked about data strategy. It's going to be critical because as we go into 2025, AI is not just a talking point anymore. I'm excited to see what happens with AI and how it's bundled into these leading products that our clients are buying. Change management is key, and faster procurement enables digital innovation. Um, there's a good case to be made for how quickly government agencies can buy products and implement them to hasten the speed of digital transformation. So that's kind of the overview that I had for the audience today. Feel free to chime in. Feel free to send me messages on what we covered today, because a lot will be revealed as this project gets underway. Lots of unknowns, and I would be really curious to see how this project will succeed. I wish them the best, and we'll really have to see what learning lessons come out of that implementation. Oh, there's a question. So it's a 10-year contract, and I want to know how, as an agency, you ensure that there are provisions in place to ensure Workday or any vendor platform remains adaptable. So that is the key benefit of having software as a service, cloud-hosted solution. It's always advanced. You're always using the best version that they've released. So a 10-year contract means that it's a 10-year software as a service contract, and if the vendor does what they're supposed to do, the client will always have the best features that they've released. Also, if the vendor does the right things and takes care of the client, this should be a lifelong relationship. So that's the promise of SaaS. That's the promise of the cloud. And I'm going to be watching this contract and project real closely. So with that, I'm going to give you some key takeaways and we'll wrap. Governments obviously need to modernize ERP systems, but they need to keep in mind that tech and legacy technologies need to be handled carefully. There might be a case there for connecting older systems to newer ones, especially with what leading ERP vendors are doing with agents. Data is going to be important. The G Cloud procurement model was a cool thing to find out about, and we'll probably do another session just on that at some point. And I think the overall key takeaway to me is ERP transitions aren't just about the technology. They're never technology projects, they're people projects, right? They're about strategy, data, and the people. So with that, I want to remind you that we are Avero Advisors. We specialize in helping governments and organizations navigate complex ERP transitions, digital transformations, AI strategy, and IT modernization.